Good morning, guys. I just thought I'd give a short update on our living wall. So we got some new philodendrons yesterday. We got delivered a black cardinal, a Paraiso Verde, and Ellie's birthday gift off of Lay, which was a pink princess. So I uploaded the video yesterday of the pink princess that's inside. The Paraiso Verde we put up on the wall here. You can see him up there. So I'm just going to go up and check him out, as well as the Veitchii, which is up here. So the Paraiso Verde, we planted it also in a mesh bag, just like I did the Veitchii. So a little bit larger. So, you know, again, check out the video there where I repotted the Veitchii. I put the link in the description below so you can see how we made that. But basically, we've got a mesh bag. So rather than using a pot, we've got a mesh bag here, which has been filled with then our chunky mix for the philodendron. And the nice thing is with these mesh bags as well, is that you can actually plant ferns into them. So, you know, one of the challenges with doing a living wall is hiding the pots. You know, this area looks really, really great because you can't see any of the pots. It just looks like, you know, these plants are growing out of the wall. There's other areas, though, which don't look quite so great yet and still need some work, where you've got kind of gaps and you can see some of the pots. So one would be down here where we have this calathea. I've tried to hide it with this growing in front of it, but it's kind of growing out and not so much up. So one of the tricks that I found is, you know, you use the ferns. Some of the ferns, they seem to want to hang down, some of them want to grow up. So the ones that hang down, I can use to fill gaps. So here, you see there's actually quite a big gap there. And that gives this begonia, which is growing beautifully here, lots of space. You know, if you cram all of the pots up next to each other, I found one, you can get issues getting water into there. And the other is, you know, it kind of cramps the plant a little bit. So by using these kinds of ferns which hang down, you can actually hide some quite big gaps. So we've got quite a large space there, and it's filled by those ferns. So that's one of the kind of techniques or tricks that I've been using. It's probably not any new discovery. I'm sure others with living walls have done a similar thing. And some of the ferns, they like to grow more up rather than hanging down. So those can be placed below plants that are growing up, and they can hide the pots. So for example, here with where this calathea is, the calathea is going to grow up. You know, it's not really going to get bushy and hang down, so the leaves are not going to hide the pot. So you have to put something underneath which is growing up. So it's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. You've got to really kind of choose the plant so that it hides the pot. Also as well, I always use black pots. So they don't stand out from the wall. They kind of blend into the back. And sometimes, well, you don't even need to hide the complete pot. You just have to break up the outline of it so that it doesn't stand out. So here, for example, where we've got this Philodendron Orlando, you can actually see the pot and the wire and stuff that's holding it in place. This fern doesn't completely cover it. You know, in an ideal world, this fern will be exactly there. But, you know, these are natural living things. They will grow where they want to grow. And they tend to want to come out, of course, towards the light. So even though it's not completely covering the pot, once you get a little bit of a distance away, the pot shape is broken up by that fern that's covering it, and it just blends into the background there. Now I'm hoping that over time, this fern will get a little bit more bushy, and it will, you know, hang down some more, and we can root it a little bit over the pot there. And the same with this fern above. So we've got this Boston fern up here. This will grow longer and bigger and eventually cascade down and help to hide some of that pot. So that's another thing with the living walls is, over time, they tend to look better. So long as you keep on top of the maintenance, cut off the dead stuff, and so on, then they tend to look better over time as they kind of grow out and mature and fill up the gaps themselves. So another example of where I've just broken up the pot is this Mexicanum here is in quite a big pot. And I just hung some of this turtle vine, which grows like a weed. I just hung some of that kind of over the front of the pot, and it's enough. It doesn't completely hide the pot. When you're up close, of course, you can see that there's a pot there, but from a distance, it again blends in. And living walls tend to look better from a couple of feet away than really up close anyway. So like I say, I've still got a lot of gaps to fill. I've still got a little bit of wandering dew up there that I want to remove. I've kind of been buying up all of the ferns I can find in all the local garden stores, so I think I need to wait a few weeks for them to restock. But yeah, this wall has come along a lot from when it first started, and you know, over time you learn what can and can't go on the wall. You know, putting the begonias on the wall was just kind of an experiment. I'm sure other people again do it. I didn't go on YouTube and look up, you know, ideas for living walls. I just kind of went at it myself and, you know, saw what worked and what didn't. So the begonias are working out really well on the wall here. Don't know how long they'll last. I'm not a big begonia expert, so I don't know how long they'll last and whether I'll need to replace them. I'm not sure, but we've got quite a lot of begonias on here. We got this. It's called a tiger's paw begonia because of the shape. A lot of them I don't know the names. This one's just really cool. It's got this kind of silvery metallic look to it. We had another one which has a metallic look, and it really wasn't doing well on the wall. I don't know why. I think maybe it wasn't quite getting enough light. It was a little bit too wet. It was kind of hidden away because it was a small one. So I've taken it off the wall and we've put it down here with our Monstera borsigina, and hopefully this will be much happier here and will grow nice and big and bushy. So I'm thinking that, you know, this will look really cool eventually once we have these begonias growing out around the base and we have the Monstera growing up above it. So I'm also trying to propagate some begonias here. You can do it from the leaves, basically. So I've got one which is rooted so far. My success rate hasn't been great yet, but it is possible to do from a leaf cutting. These I just put in a couple of days ago. We'll see how they go. So if you put them into a glass jar with water, then obviously it's a lot easier to see the roots. I made a bit of a mistake with this one. I thought that it was not working, and I pulled it out. And when I pulled it out, I saw it had roots on the bottom of it already. So I'm sorry, little one. I put you back inside, and I hope that I didn't disturb you too much and that your roots continue to grow. Anyway, so back to the living wall and the mesh pockets. So the Paraiso Verde is inside of a mesh pocket. So what I was saying about trying to hide the pots, okay? If you don't use a pot, and you have some other way of attaching the plant to the wall, then you can more easily hide that way that it's attached. So what I came up with was this idea of using a mesh or a net. So I bought off the internet, you know, a couple of meters of basically fishing net. And you can cut it out and kind of sew it together. I don't sew it. I use some gardening wire. Like I say, check out the Veitchii video where I show how I made it. And you can make it any size you want to fit the plant, and it allows lots of air to the roots, easy for the water to drain. And later on, when you want to upsize, you don't actually have to disturb it at all. The roots will begin to grow out through the net, and you can just make a bigger net and put it inside of a bigger net and surround it with some more growing media. So when you need to upsize, it's a lot less disruptive for the plant. So that's what I did with the Paraiso Verde. I'm going to get the ladders out and we'll go up there and take a closer look at it so you can see exactly what I mean. So here's our Veitchii, and you can see the mesh bag that I put it in. Basically, I call it kind of the Veitchii nest. So you fill it up with all the stuff that the plant likes to grow in. So we've got cocoa cubes, we've got sphagnum moss, we've got a little bit of perlite and so on inside of there. And basically pop the plants inside it and tie it up onto the wall. So the great thing about these mesh bags is also as well, they're a lot easier to hide. They blend in because they you know, they're not shiny like the black plastic, which is shiny and will catch the light. And also as well, you can actually poke things through the mesh. So what I did yesterday was we just got some pieces of fern that had some roots to them, and basically poked them through the mesh bag. So you can actually turn the mesh bag into, you know, part of the living wall. So rather than having things planted around it and trying to encourage them to grow in a certain direction so they hide the mesh, you can actually just poke ferns or other plants through the gaps in the mesh, and they will help to hide the growing medium that you've got there. So that is how we planted this Paraiso Verde up here. Like I say, it was only just put in yesterday. It's probably still settling in. And when you first put these plants onto a living wall, you know, they've been used to growing in a certain position, and now you're trying to get it to grow in another position so they can look a little bit skew-whiff for a few days, but eventually they will settle in to their new home and find a position that's suitable for them, and where they're getting enough sunlight and so on. So this leaf is a little damaged at the top there, but maybe that happened yesterday when we were putting it up. So these Paraiso Verde leaves, they're quite thin. You know, some of the other leaves, like say the Gloriosum here, they're thicker, they're a little bit more substantial, leathery kind of feel to them. But this Paraiso Verde, they're very thin leaves. They feel like they're quite easy probably to get damaged. But they've got a beautiful kind of variegation to them. I think they look like a giant caterpillar. So it's a climber. So just like the gigas that we've got on the wall here, and also the Mexicanum, we've put one of the fern posts made out of some fern wood there at the back, tied onto the wall, so that will provide something for the plant to climb up. So there's a gap here. Obviously I've left a gap for the plant to grow into. I don't want to crowd it out too much, especially as the leaves are kind of delicate. So I don't want it flapping around maybe in the wind and leaves getting torn because they're rubbing against the edge of some ferns or something. So that's the Philodendron Paraiso Verde that we got yesterday up on the wall now. Our Mexicanum's got a new leaf coming out. So you can see this Mexicanum, I just planted it in the pot that it came in. I just attached this pot up onto the wall basically. I didn't make the mesh bag for that, but obviously then it takes up kind of a little bit more space and it's harder to hide than the mesh bags. But you know, the mesh bags take a little bit of effort to make. So it depends on how much time you've got. Anyway, so that's our update for the living wall today. I'll see you in the next video.